Hello everyone, it's Amy, and I was making some reverse stamps this morning, and I thought that, well, why not bring you along? So I made these 4 this morning, and I'm going to show you how I made them. And these are just my little mini foam stamps again, except instead of being a pattern, they actually wind up being a background. Now I don't like sharp edges, and so I just cut a shape on there. And so what you're going to need is you're going to need a backing for your stamps. I just have these little wood tiles I got at a recycle store, but you can just use little pieces of cardboard, credit cards. You can use anything for those. You will need foam sheets. And this morning I went ahead and I glued 2 thicknesses of foam sheets together because one thickness when you go to stamp is not quite enough. And you're going to need something to put on them for your background. I just have some little stars here. I use some toothpicks. And you're going to need glue to glue it all together. I'm using wood glue to glue it on. And I think that's about it. So what I first did was this morning, I went ahead and I took 2 foam sheets and glued them together. And then I just took my stamp, or took whatever I'm going to use for my background, and I went ahead and I just cut my foam to that size so that it wouldn't be too big, because when I first cut this morning I thought that I was small enough and I had to go in and readjust all of my shapes. So just go ahead and cut your foam to that size. Now if you like the square edges, you don't have to do any more than this to your foam except glue it onto your block. I want to have the soft edges, so I am going to cut them. And then when you have leftover sheets, don't throw those away because you can use those for, I did this one, and I did this one with some extras that I had this morning, and I just cut the foam into shapes and glued them onto the block. So, and then once you get your little squares cut out that will fit your backing, whatever that may be, then I just take the square because I don't want it to be a square, and I just cut. And I did not cut in any particular way because I wanted them all to kind of be different. And I wound up with a square edge right there because I went off the edge and I don't want that, so I'm going to trim that. But yeah, I just rock my scissors back and forth until I get to the other side. And then also you can use these wavy bits to glue onto your block and make one that way. So again, just start anywhere and just go. And some of them I made very close to the edges. Some of them I went way in and way out so that they were, because this shape is going to show because this is a background stamp, and so it's inverse. These ones are going to be, and that means that whatever you're putting on as your pattern is going to be sunken in and not show up with the ink, and all of the background will wind up showing up. So, as in this, whatever you pressed into there does not show, and then the ink shows everywhere else. So, and for this I just used, this was a text stamp, which because of it being inverse doesn't make a difference. It was a French text, French script. This was a necklace with a little heart on it and a chain. This was a piece of a rubber stamp that had some gears on it. This was seed beads that I just dumped on the table and pressed it on. This one I do not like, so I probably will just redo that because you should be able to. I'm not sure once you put the ink on it, but normally what I've done before is if I didn't like something or it turned out it didn't get deep enough or something, I just put the heat back on the foam. It just all kind of levels back up again and you can reuse it. So, but once you get all of your shapes cut, then you're going to need something to use as your stamp. And so here, I just have some little star, kind of look like little pearl stars, and I'm just going to stick them. I just put double-sided tape on a piece of copy paper, just to hold them there. And it's low tack, so they'll come off really easy when I'm done, and I can just stick them back in the bag. I do try and go bigger than the stamp so that the whole stamp gets covered. You know, I don't want to like have a huge blank space on my stamp, because then wherever that blank space is, that's all going to be, it's all going to take ink. So, and then I just have here, I have a little fleur-de-lis, and so I'm just going to stick that on there. And then here I have just seed beads, and I just randomly put those on there. And then I did some more also. I have some of the little hearts like the stars. I have some little eye hooks, some little decorative keys, a ball chain in a swirl, some toothpicks in different shapes, and then this is like a, it's off of a flower, and it was the, I can't, you know, like the ivy that's on the flower. I don't know if I'm going to like that one or not, but it's like, well, why not try it? I already stuck it on there. So then what you're going to do is you are going to take your foam and glue it to your blocks, which actually I should have done this in the beginning, because you want them to dry a little bit. And I just put 2 together and use that to rub my glue around, because I don't want a whole ton of glue squashing out the edges. And so I'm going to put this one right on here. And you just want to try and make sure that it's completely on the block, so that when you use it, that you've got even pressure everywhere. Because if it's hanging off the edge of the block, you're not going to have any pressure where it's hanging off. So we're going to glue those right onto our block. Need to move this one over a bit. There we go. Okay, so go through and glue all of those on your block like that. And then what you're going to do, I'm going to try and do it right now while the glue is wet. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, then I'll let the glue dry and come back and we'll do it again in a little bit. Excuse the noise. Let's see. Let's start with the stars. And I have to turn on the outlet. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your heat tool to heat up the foam, and you can just kind of tell it kind of gets a little bit of a different sheen to it. Get it heated really well, and then go very quickly onto your stars. And I think my glue slipped. Now the biggest thing is that you want to leave it there for a good amount of time, like maybe even a whole minute, because you want the foam to cool down before you take it off, because then it will stay dented exactly how you have it. If you take it off too quickly and it's still warm, it will start to raise back up again and go back to its normal shape. Because with the fun foam, if it's heated, it can change shapes. So I'm going to leave that one there, and I'm going to heat up this one, and we'll do that fleur-de-lis real quick. And it kind of looks a little bit sparkly or wet. And now hopefully I've got that all on there. So I'm going to put that one there. And that one feels cool. So I'm going to go ahead and lift that up. Oops. And it didn't slip. I thought it did, but it didn't. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there are our stars. And these are just mixed media random background stamps. That's what I'm looking for. I just like randomness, so that's what I'm going for here. And there is our fleur-de-lis. Now it did not, it only, I'm going to show this up to you closer. This fleur-de-lis has little bumps on top of the fleur-de-lis. And that is the only thing that picked up on here. The one thing about this is how do I say that? When you're going to use them, whatever you are taking your print of, I guess you're making your stamp out of, they kind of all need to be the same level. Anything that's detailed underneath, whatever you can feel at the top, that's not going to show up. So we have our fleur-de-lis here, but it doesn't look like a fleur-de-lis, but actually, oops, sorry about that, it does look really cool. And so I am going to keep that, and we'll see what it looks like when we stamp it. And we'll do that right now. And then I think maybe we'll just do, let's check these with stamping them. And then I think I will go and glue all of my bits here that I've already cut out, glue them on the wood, and let them sit for just a little bit so we don't take the chance of having them slip. No point in wasting it. Okay, so there we go. We've got our stamp inked. And see, that was a blue background. So what's going to stamp is the black, and the blue is going to stay whatever color is underneath. So I'm going to put that down there, make sure I give it even pressure everywhere. And I like the wavy lines, and that's how it turned out. I think that one turned out cool. That is definitely a keeper. So I like the rounded lines because you can stamp them on your mixed media pages, and you don't just get that stark square edge. And that's why I cut them in just random shapes. And I think that my pad is juicier on one side than the other. There we go. Alright, so now we'll try this one. And that's what it looks like here. And then we'll just press it down on there. Cover my ink up. And always when you are stamping something, if you let it set for a little bit, that gives time for the ink to transfer to the paper. It's not really about how hard you push, it's about how long you leave it set as to whether you get a good image or not. And there we go. And there's that one, and I really like that too. Now on here, it does look like a fleur-de-lis. So that's very cool, and I really like that. So those are both keepers. Now, let's try this one. This is the one that I did not like. I just put the beads down there. They were too close together. They touched, and it just, it just kind of looked like just a hodgepodge mishmash or whatever. I mean, I guess if you looked at that, you could look at it like clouds. I see an elephant. I see. But I'm going to try and see if we can lift that center back up and redo this one. And all you do is you just heat it. My glue is wanting to let loose, and this one has been glued for a long time. So that's not necessarily good. Maybe that spot was not glued good in the first place. Alright, now. It did kind of flatten out. You can see the red, but that does feel pretty flat. You can just see it because it didn't have ink on it. Now I'm going to heat this up again, and I'll try and do these little beads, seed beads that I have right here. And I just took that part that was curling up and pushed it back where it belonged. And after I'm done with this, if I like it, I will go ahead and I will take some glue and put it between those two levels. And then again, just hold it and let it cool down. Now with these, you do need to give some pressure because you're trying to push your object right up into that foam. So with this one, it does matter, the pressure that you put on it. And then also the fact that you let it cool. Let's see how that worked. Okay, we do have our indents in there. So now we'll go ahead and put some ink on it. Grab our piece of scrap paper. And see how that one looks. Okay, so I did get all of our little foam glued to our wood, and there was 7 still to go. So I really quickly did do 3. I did the hearts, and I did the little eye hooks, and I did the keys. And we'll do these last 4. I thought you probably wouldn't want to sit here through all of them, but I thought you might just kind of want to see it a few more times. So we'll go ahead and do these last 4, and then we'll stamp them and see how they look, and we'll be all set. I didn't realize when I went to upload that first part, I didn't realize how long it was already. So I didn't want the video to be too long. Just take that, give it a really good press, and hold on to it for a little bit. I did when I did the keys, I did not press hard enough and hold it long enough, and they were very, especially this top part here, was very shallow, because these keys, if I get one off of here, these keys are really flat. They're very thin, and this part here was a lot thicker. So I wound up just reheating it and doing it over. And then this time they turned out really pretty good. So, and then see, like, I have the one key is off the edge there. And I really like how that looks. Alright, I'm going to let that one sit for just a second while we do this next one. Whoops, knocked off one of my toothpicks. There we go. So now we'll heat up this one. We'll do that little starburst of toothpicks there. And originally I was thinking I just wanted some lines, and I did the one that was just offset here at the top. And then while I had them out, it was like, oh, that would be cool to make a little starburst out of. So it's so cool that you just look around the house and you can find all sorts of things that you will be able to use these for. And then, like I said, if it winds up not working out right, you don't like the way it looks, reheat it and reuse it. If you didn't get it indented enough, or things are in the wrong spot, they moved, yeah, just go ahead and redo it. That's like the seed beads that I did earlier, and then I redid because they all just kind of rolled into the same spot when I put them on my desk. And so that gave me the idea to put the double-sided tape on a piece of paper just to hold things down, especially like trying to line these up and that kind of thing, and then get your stamp on there in time. You know, they have a tendency to want to move. Okay, so here's our spiral. And then you can see here, I must have kind of slid it just a little bit when I went to put it down. So I've got, sorry, no, it's kind of hard to see, but it's kind of like, it's almost like it's smeared right there. But I'm going to see how that looks before I try and redo it, because I think that that might look kind of cool. So we're going to leave that one aside. And we'll try this little one here that I'm just not sure. Oh yeah, see, my beads probably moved. They're not taped down right there. I just saw them move. We're going to try this little spiral that I kind of think isn't going to turn out well, but you never know. It doesn't want to stick down because it's wire and it's heavy. Just see how it works. Never know, it could be the best one ever. And then we just have one more after this, and we'll stamp them off and see what they look like. I'll take a look at this one now. Ooh, that one turned out really cool. I like that a lot, I think. You never really know until you actually put the ink on them and see what they look like. Okay, I'm going to leave that one there for a minute. We'll do the last one here. And with these ones, I don't necessarily need to get the points like right in the middle. They could be offset top or bottom, which will give them even more interest. Let's get in there somewhere. And really hold it well right at the very beginning, because that's when you're going to get your actual dent. And then hold it for a few. Alright, hold that one down and we'll see what this one looks like. I don't know, that one actually might wind up being kind of cool. Yeah, we'll have to see. And I'm going to let that one sit for just a second. And grab our ink here, because that's our last one. And some scrap paper. And then we'll try these. Okay, so we've got hearts, eye hooks, and keys. There we go. Oh, my pad might be a little bit light. I use so much Stays On. It's one of my favorites. It's stuck. I was going to just set it there. So here's our hearts. We'll put those on there. Give them a good press all over. And let it sit for a second to let the ink transfer, because there's a lot of ink on there. There's a lot of flat area. Here's our little eye hooks. These ones might not have got deep enough. I may have not pressed hard enough. And then here's our keys. Oh, drop the ink. Put those there. Let's see what we've got here. The hearts turned out nice. The eye hooks turned out nice. And the keys turned out nice. There's our hearts, our eye hooks, and our keys. And we do have a little bit here. And I wish I would have got a little bit more there, but I think if I had pressed a little harder. Because that is so close to the top of the stamp, whereas the shaft of the key was a lot deeper. So that looks really kind of cool. This looks very vintage right there. Alrighty, so that was those three. And oops, let's look at this one. That looks good. Alrighty, get another piece of scrap paper that I have right here. And do these last four. Thank you very much for coming by and watching. I do appreciate it. I hope that you like this, and if you make some, I'd love to see what you make. It's kind of neat to see like other people's ideas if they have a good idea that you didn't think of as far as like what to use for a background. So, because I think later on this afternoon, and probably tomorrow, I might go hunting for some more, because I did make quite a few of the foam sheets to use. Of course, I won't use them all today, but I figured while I had them out, I kind of do that. Oops, I dropped one. Since I had the foam sheets out and I had the glue out and everything, I had put some Elmer's glue in in a small bowl, put a little bit, just a little bit of water in it so it would flow, and then I just glued together as many foam sheets as I had glue. And then just washed my bowl out and put it back in the art room. Because you don't want to use things in your kitchen that you've used for anything in your art room because of the possibility of a chemical. Alrighty, and then we'll do these two that I did this morning too, with just the leftover cutouts or cutoffs. And like you can see here, maybe, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's not totally covered. I could go ahead and I could stamp it that way, because I just didn't get it completely covered with the ink yet. And that's kind of a little bit of a different look than if you make sure that you get the whole thing covered. And that's partly because my pad is kind of dry. And we'll do this final little triangles here. And then we'll do the big reveal and see what they look like. Okay. Oops, dropped it. Okay, so to get a, if I had that on the page, I wouldn't mind. It would just be extra background, but since I want to see what they look like, I'm going to go down here and do it. Okay, so we've got our little swirl, which does look pretty cool. Okay, so we have, oops, we have our toothpicks here, and then we have our swirls, two different kinds. And I do actually like, I'm glad that I tried it because I do like the way that that turned out. I think it looks really quite neat. I could see using that in different spots. And here we have the cutoffs. And it's still probably kind of hard to see, but just with a little ink on the thing and then a solid ink. And what happens if you just drop your stamp? So there we go. Those are the ones that we just did. And we have these ones. And we have these ones. And then these are the ones I did this morning, which we no longer have that one because it now looks like that. But I really appreciate you stopping by. This is just so easy. I thought you might want to play along and see how it's done. And I thought you might want to make your own. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope that you have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.